Hey guys, welcome to the Medical Futurist live Q&A. This is Dr. Bertalan the Medical Futurist, and let me welcome you in the name of the Medical Futurist team in this new live Q&A. The plan is that for the next few Tuesdays at the same time, we will meet again and again, discussing a few exciting topics. Today, the topic is some insights about artificial intelligence in healthcare for 2021 based on the new ebook we just released. And I will tell you later about the topics for the next Tuesdays too. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I see the chat that you're coming from so many different places around the world. And thank you so much for first the questions some of you sent over on eventbrite.com where you registered for the event. And second, the questions. Thank you for the questions coming through in the chat right now. The plan is to have a vibrant discussion here. For those who don't know me or the Medical Futurist, I'm a professional futurist. My job is to analyze digital health trends and artificial intelligence. We communicate about these findings, these analysis on the channels of the Medical Futurist, on medicalfuturist.com and all the social media channels you can imagine, except for TikTok. And we also publish studies about digital health and AI's role in the future of medicine and healthcare. That's what we do at the Medical Futurist and the Medical Futurist Institute. And what we do in these live sessions is that we discuss these topics with you. Usually you have many questions, and my job is to do my best to answer as many as I can in the best way I can. That's the only thing I can promise to you today. I prepared some materials for you, some exciting news and analysis, but the plan is to have a discussion. So again, please feel free to ask any questions about, now we focus on AI, so please about artificial intelligence's role in medicine and healthcare, and I will do my best to answer all those questions. I just wanted to give you a few insights about what has been going on recently in the news about AI in healthcare. We check those news every single day, and there are many of those, even studies. I spent, I think, at least half a day every week just reading through studies, but there are some news that usually stand out of the crowd. I just saw this news about a World Health Organization introducing a new chatbot-like feature, which is based on an artificial intelligence-based algorithm. And they try to use that chatbot to help people quit smoking. It's quite a big issue worldwide. Still hundreds of millions of people smoke, but maybe the chatbot could help them find a way to stop that bad lifestyle habit. That's one thing I came across, and there's another thing that we just published, I think yesterday, on the Smithsonian site. There was a news about how doctors at Cleveland Clinic turned to a machine learning algorithm to analyze the medical records coming from 12,000 patients staying at Cleveland Clinic, because they want to find out what kind of features or preferences can predict whether someone would be tested positive for COVID-19. Today, we don't plan to talk about COVID-19, but let me mention that the new video we just published on our YouTube channel a few minutes ago, actually, is about the 6 logical steps that are needed to leave COVID-19 behind. So please feel free to, maybe after a live Q&A, hop over to our YouTube channel and check out that new video. But it's fascinating that there are so many purposes machine learning based algorithms can be used for in medicine and healthcare. The question is not whether these algorithms are useful for those medical purposes anymore, but the question is which ones have enough evidence behind those that should be included in the everyday practice of medicine or delivery of healthcare. That's the real question now, because trying to find a difference between hype and reality is such a crucial part of my job too. Many companies claim that they use artificial intelligence because this way they can get more investments, more funding. Simply, that's how people work in that area. I see many studies where authors just easily overclaim something that their algorithms can do. And I see a lot of news sites and reports coming out on magazines and news channels saying that this or that machine learning algorithm outperformed physicians in this or that, diagnosing this or that kinds of conditions. It's never the case. I always read the studies behind those news, and then I find out, well, it did outperform physicians like in diagnosing skin cancer, but the algorithm only had access to clean data, a database of cleaned images, annotated images. And of course, it could make a better decision on each image compared to physicians. But real life, clinical life is much more diverse than that. So we have to keep that in mind, that it's never as amazing as it sounds in the first place when we read those news. So thank you again for being here. I'm looking forward to your questions. There are many. I start with, I think, 2 questions from the Eventbrite website, where more than 100 of you registered. And then we will go through the questions just had here. And also, you have our editor-in-chief, Judith Cusco. She's helping you out in the name of the Medical Futurist in the chat. She is sharing with you news and articles we have written, so it's easy to refer back to those. So the first question, I must ask this, I must show you this question. Yana Kim asked this question through Eventbrite. Today, here it is. How killer robots might emerge from the development of artificial intelligence? I'm smiling because that's not a question you expect when you talk about AI in healthcare, but that's an important question, by the way. And killer robots might emerge if we surpass the level of artificial general intelligence and we don't have control over what AI is capable of doing anymore. I'm sure you remember a few live events ago, I shared this image with you that we published in the Medical Journal of Nature Digital Medicine. And in that, we used Nick Bostrom's 3 levels of AI idea from his book called Superintelligence. And in this, I described that we have now artificial narrow intelligence, and soon we might have artificial general intelligence. And artificial superintelligence means that we are doomed as species. So the plan that many researchers and developers have in mind worldwide is just not to reach artificial general intelligence. This way, we could enjoy the benefits of using AI, but not without losing control. So I think we could have killer robots if we lose control, if we have artificial general intelligence. Now let's focus on a bit more practical questions. Florence Committee had a question that is quite broad, but still, I think, very important to start with. It is about how will AI disrupt healthcare? We have written plenty of analysis about that, but maybe the biggest points about how AI can disrupt healthcare include running in silico clinical trials, meaning that we don't have to test medications on patients anymore, but we can test those medications on billions of virtual models of patients in silico. AI can disrupt healthcare in a way that it could improve diagnostics. We have data already that we patients can obtain about ourselves and that medical professionals can see about ourselves, but it's physically impossible to analyze all those amounts of data. So an AI-based algorithm could help us out with that. It's possible to design better treatment pathways with AI. IBM Watson has been trying to do that for many years, simply in oncology, to try to check out all these relevant studies for the patient's case and suggest treatment pathways for the medical professionals taking care of the patient. It's possible to use AI-guided medical devices. I have a portable ultrasound device right now in the studio, and I plan to show you this device in a few days. And with that device, I can do an ultrasound examination with my smartphone. It's quite mind-blowing, but it's AI-guided. So even if I don't have experience in doing ultrasound examinations, I can ask the AI guidance to help me guide through the whole process. It's pretty much like science fiction. Just 4 areas where AI can disrupt healthcare. Of course, there are many more, but these are the biggest ones. All right, a few of the questions you just asked. And welcome from the US, from Budapest, Iran, India. It's so great to see you coming from all those different places in the world. So, Gopal Verma asked a question about, does AI reduce the cost, I guess? Getting there. The cost of patients' treatment. It is possible if we can do this through several ways. If AI can help reduce unnecessary hospitalizations, then of course it can reduce costs. If I have a heart attack and I have to take anticoagulant medications like warfarin or Coumadin, it's possible that I have a genetic variant that makes me more sensitive to the same dosage of the same medications like you do. Therefore, I should receive a smaller dosage of the same medication, even though we are quite similar in weight, race, gender, and so on. If an AI can help prevent such side effects from happening, then it can reduce costs. If an AI can help design a treatment pathway that is more customized to the patient's metabolic and genomic needs or background, that is more about precision medicine, then of course it can reduce costs because it can lead to better treatment outcomes. It can lead to a shorter amount of time spent at hospitals, and maybe the patient can even go back to work in a shorter amount of time. So just two examples how AI could reduce costs for patients. All right. Wow. Okay, Michael Neurath, welcome back to the live event. It's great to see you here too. He's asking about a database of AI drug discovery companies. Well, we published an image. Let me share this with you about the 100 digital health companies a few months ago. And I think in that image, we included a few companies that were interested in drug discovery by using AI. Give me a second here. Here it is. So if you check this, I can share it with you, and you will see this sooner in the chat because there is some delay between you and I. But here is the full size image to this. You can see the AI field here by Brown, and there are some companies that are interested in drug discovery and artificial intelligence. So it might help you in that respect. All right. Wow, there are great questions coming in. I'm trying to keep up with the pace here. Wow, Peter Kurzweil, who turns out to be a cousin of Ray Kurzweil, the world-renowned futurist and now a Google employee. The question is about, will most diagnostic procedures eventually be able to be done at the home using AI and robotics? It's an excellent question. And I do think that automation in general, not just robots or AI, but automation in general can support the process of making patients the point of care. But first of all, for me, the point of care is going to be wherever the patient is, not just their home, but I guess you were referring to, outside the hospital, and that's true. I think what matters here is how I can obtain and access my own data. So I can access my medical records. I can obtain data about myself. I'm looking to my right because I have a shelf full of digital health gadgets, and I can use those gadgets, ECG, portable diagnostic devices, portable ultrasound devices to obtain data about myself. My physician can access my medical records and the medical records of many other patients and medical studies, millions of those. And if we could analyze these huge amounts of data sets as human beings, then we would not need artificial intelligence. But it is physically impossible to analyze all these things and to come up with clinical conclusions. So where I see a role of AI in this process is that I obtain data, my physician accesses data, and we allow algorithms based on AI to analyze these, and these might come up with conclusions, suggestions, insights we couldn't think of before. I think we, the physician and the patient together, will make a medical decision at the end, but this process will be supported by automation. So I don't think that automation can replace diagnostic processes at the point of care. I think that the cultural transformation we call digital health can lead to patients becoming the point of care, which is a process that will require some sort of automation, but is not depending on it. I hope I could be as precise as I wanted to be. Sure, Michael, my pleasure. All right. Going forward, wow, what a great question from Aryan Chaudhry. If I pronounce your names in the wrong way, please forgive me. I have an awful name in Hungarian, so I understand if someone pronounces my name in an awful way. That's more than fine. I hope you don't mind if I make some mistakes about your names. I'm doing my best, really. So the question from Aryan Chaudhry was about how would the doctor-patient relationship change if an AI system was employed to aid the healthcare professional in making a diagnosis? Excellent question, because automation does change the doctor-patient relationship. Even patients becoming the point of care can shape the doctor-patient relationship. But the vision that we share at the Medical Futurist is that, like in 10 years from now, a doctor and a patient can have a real life conversation with eye to eye contact, a relationship based on trust. They can use compassionate care, empathy, a real life conversation. But in the meantime, in an invisible way, their conversation is being put from voice into text. The text is being analyzed by AI. Many studies relevant to the patient's case are being analyzed real time by the AI. And at the end of the discussion, the AI comes up with suggestions. So I think it doesn't affect the doctor-patient relationship in a significant way, but it very much significantly affects the outcome, the decision that they agree upon at the end of the discussion. At least that's the vision that we share at the Medical Futurist, and that's the vision we are fighting for. Because right now I cannot say that we are moving into that direction profoundly, without exceptions worldwide, but that's what we are fighting for, to make sure everyone, every physician and patient has the chance to build that real life relationship, while AI only supports what they are doing. Richard M. Ballarant asks a wonderful question. How will issues of responsibility and liability be resolved in physician-AI collaboration? What a wonderful question. We've seen examples about this in the medical device industry, even before the era of AI. If someone, a very simple example, if someone uses a stethoscope and they hear a cardiac sound that they think is wrong, and it leads to a treatment, and that leads to side effects for the patient and further hospitalization, then who is responsible? I think we can all agree that if the physician used the stethoscope in the right way, as it was intended to be used, and still he or she could hear those sounds, so the stethoscope was malfunctioning, then the company designing the stethoscope could be liable for that. But if the stethoscope was functioning the right way and was used in the right way, but the physician made the wrong decision here, then of course the physician is responsible. The only change about AI is when we look at not logged algorithms, which means I develop a logged algorithm about medical purpose, I try to get approval from the FDA, for example, in the US, they give me approval, and that logged algorithm can do exactly what I intended it to be doing. But if I want to use an adaptive algorithm that changes with more data, that learns with more data, then what happens when the adaptive algorithm, I make a mistake based on the new things the adaptive algorithm learned along the way? Who is responsible then? The physician who made the wrong decision based on a faulty algorithm, the algorithm that just kept on learning with new data and is not even a legal entity, or the company developing the algorithm, but when they developed the algorithm, it did things differently than after it started learning with data. So I don't have an answer for that. I haven't seen an answer for that, not even coming from regulatory agencies. But this is a discussion that will keep on going about this liability issue. Right now, the FDA is quite clear that with logged in algorithms, the company is responsible if the algorithm was used in the way it was designed for. If not, then the physician is responsible for those bad decisions. Reza Hashemipur has a great question about something I don't have much knowledge about, but I want to raise the issue here. Maybe some of you have some examples about this. Vet medicine, how AI can be used in vet medicine. Well, once I looked into how wearable sensors can be used for pets, and there's a swarm of medical devices used for pets, even fitness trackers, and step counters. But for AI, I can only think of AI being used in clinical trials, because there are trials for new medications introduced to the vet medicine market too, and maybe analyzing the same kinds of data sets that are obtained about pets in larger studies. So actually, I can always imagine using AI for a purpose where a large amount of data is being analyzed, because we are not capable of that. And whenever I have a discussion with physicians and at medical events, when I give talks about AI, I get the question, well, why do we need AI at all when we have been improving at caring for patients for hundreds of years? So why? And then I ask them back, if you could analyze millions of data sets about your patients, of course we would not need artificial intelligence, but we are not capable of that. We can't even analyze, I mean, hundreds of data points, not even millions. So of course, that's why we need the help of artificial intelligence. Zainab Samir has an excellent question. Man, you have really amazing questions. All of you, thank you so much for being here and asking all those great questions. Will AI take its role in giving each one of the medical team his or her true role? I guess by this you mean that as whether AI can become a part of the medical team. And I'm smiling because in my last keynotes, I have started recently using two new lines. One is that the newest member of the medical team is the patient, because they have a lot to contribute to the table. And I usually end up my talk saying that, but there is one more member of the new medical team, and that's going to be artificial intelligence very soon. So yes, I think patients and AI should have a new chair at the table. And this is the new medical team that we envision to see in the next couple of years. Bogdan Boston has an interesting question. It's not that much relevant to AI, but I can make it relevant to AI. How can digital health developers get the best out of a discussion with a physician? What do the physicians expect from developers? Two very different questions. And I think both apply to developing AI-based medical technologies too. One about what developers can expect from physicians. I cannot imagine having a world-class developer researcher team being able to develop something useful for physicians without involving them. Therefore, where physicians can help the most for digital startups is to give them the clinical medical need that must be met with that new technology. If you're a startup, you have a great idea that will not meet a clinical, medical, or patient need, I don't see what you are developing for. And that's where physicians can help, because they see clinical reality. They can give you insights about what are the gaps or niches in their works, and then it might help you find out what kind of need could be met with your technology or service or solution. And what do physicians expect from developers? To provide a solution. I've met in my life a lot of medical professionals who have excellent technological ideas, but they cannot make those happen. But with developers, they could make those happen. And if I had a startup right now and I didn't have a medical professional on board, I would go on social media, I would go on Twitter, and I would ask for expert opinions about the unmet needs I'm trying to provide a solution for with my technology, because there are so many physicians with excellent ideas who are not involved in these discussions. Jorge Cardona, you are right about the question for AI for vet medicine. Just like in human medicine, we have to extrapolate. When there is a bunch of data, AI has a role in that process. I'm trying to answer one question per person, as long as we have questions, and we have plenty of questions now to go through. All right. There's a question from YC Lim. Is there any country that shows healthcare costs charge in advance? I mean, can you please clarify what you had in mind? I'm not sure I get the question. What about prescribed drug printing? I'm only mentioning this question because it has some relevance to AI. I've talked to companies like FabRx, where they use 3D printers to print out medications. So now we know that based on studies and enough clinical evidence that it is possible to print out medications with 3D printers. Even biological therapies could be printed out in the near future with 3D printers based on the claims we had from these companies. And they must use artificial intelligence to, when they have to design more advanced medications, it's not going to be possible by, manually by hand. They will need AI to design those plans. Of course, Bogdan, my pleasure about the answer. Rohan Barrowcliff has a really challenging question about the existential risk here. Yeah, you mentioned that this is the existential risk argument. What's your viewpoint on danger of AI? I know this is a general question, but you will, of course, thank you. I've seen too many science fiction movies and I've read too many science fiction books not to have fears about AI. Plus, if for the first time in your life you really use an AI-based chatbot to have a general discussion, it will blow your mind away. And this is just about text. It doesn't even argue or understand abstract visions or cannot even dream. I've seen algorithms dream from Google. I've seen algorithms keep a real life, or at least a real life looking conversation with people. So whenever you have at least one of these experiences, it makes you think, it makes you have fears about what happens when we lose control of AI. So in general, I'm very excited about the benefits we can gain from using AI, especially in healthcare and medicine. But if we don't do it in a smart way, we will reach artificial general intelligence. And if you watch movies like Her or Ex Machina and dozens of others, you will realize that it will find a way to get out of that black box. So that comes down to the black box paradox about AI, that when you develop a machine learning based algorithm and it becomes really good at doing something, you don't really understand anymore how it does what it does. And we don't understand how it does what it does, how can we make sure it doesn't get out, it doesn't go online and start doing stuff with the stock market, with political systems, with healthcare data. That's why we have to be extremely cautious when developing AI. And that's why there are great consortiums like the Xavier AI Consortium or the OpenAI Foundation and Future of Life Institute, where they want to make sure that we don't surpass that level of artificial general intelligence. All right. So I have fears. I watch too much science fiction. Wow, Jorge Cardona, thank you for that. I love those questions too that require sort of vision about what might happen next. You don't think that in the long way, AI learning from all the medical data sources could propose a new type of machine? Of course, absolutely. I even published a paper in Journal of Medical Internet Research about why I think the real era of the art of medicine will only come with the era of artificial intelligence. Because when an AI can find a new drug combination we never thought of before, or might discover new drugs without even clinical trials that work actually and provide real life results, then the art of medicine will be finding out and understanding how the AI could come to that conclusion or make that decision or find that cure. And understanding that we will need, background in biology, pathology, even how AI works. This is going to be the real era of art of medicine. I have no doubts that with AI, we will find new medications, drug combinations. We even wrote about network medicine and how the laboratory of Albert Laszlo Barabashi in the US has been using artificial intelligence to find new drug molecules, new drug targets based on AI-based analysis. So absolutely, that's in the picture. I'm just saying that the essence of the change that I see or we see in healthcare is based on the cultural transformation of digital health, of healthcare, that the hierarchy of doctor-patient relationship has been transforming into an equal-level partnership. The passive patient role has been shifting towards a proactive, empowered patient role. The role of being the guide or the key holder to the ivory tower of medicine of the physician has been transforming into being a guide for their patients in the jungle of information. So these things have a much more significant impact on the short term on healthcare than an AI-based algorithm that can perform a very well-defined single task. So in artificial narrow intelligence, these algorithms are perfectly functioning well by doing one single task. They can play chess like nobody else, or play Go, or find tuberculosis on scans, but it has zero IQ, it cannot have a general conversation, and so on. Of course, Rohan, my pleasure. Well, if you're thinking about, I'm just stopping because I see many questions about career choices and where to study, learn more about AI. We will have a live discussion dedicated entirely to that topic. So I want to leave the materials I prepared for you for that discussion. Teresa Cabezas, it's an interesting question about who should get involved. Is public or private initiative who should lead the change about AI in healthcare? Ideally, it should be both. But now we see that to be able to develop artificial general intelligence sort of level of AI, you need such supercomputers that no startup or company can afford that. So I'm afraid governments, some, even not or even all, some governments might be able to reach that level. But it should be both. It should be that we include private companies that can provide the researchers and the developers that they hired away from governments. And we would very much need policymakers and governments to make sure that whatever comes out at the end of that AI development circle or process, that would be safe, tested, and regulated when it comes to the lives of patients. Akash Lobo, yeah, what steps should a freshly graduating medical student take to join in on the AI healthcare revolution? If I were you, I would do the course at Coursera. And also there's one course at deeplearning.ai, because that course is a big picture, high level course, but also about some details in the development of AI. But it's a big enough knowledge for a fresh medical professional to know about AI. Plus, if you don't mind me being so bold here, we published a paper, this one, in NPJ's Digital Medicine Journal. Here it is. It's an open access paper, a short guide for medical professionals in the era of artificial intelligence. We included everything that we think every physician should know about AI. The basics, the definition, the levels, the methods, machine learning models. We use these visual images to show how supervised learning works, deep learning, and all these. We provided examples for all of them. We talk about the challenges of AI, the potential benefits. So this is like the basic package everyone should keep in mind being a medical professional when it comes to AI in healthcare. So thank you for that. Wow. Hello from Canada. Ahmad Hamkar had a question that needs to be answered here. How to build and improve trust between the clinicians and the AI systems currently proposed for diagnosis of health conditions, considering the AI system's limitations. Every medical technology has limitations. AI systems, I think, have more benefits than limitations, but the hype is so amazingly great around AI that I understand that we expect even more and more of what these AI systems can do. But to answer the question, we can only build trust through two ways. One, if there is evidence. Evidence-based medicine still applies to using AI in healthcare. If a company finds out or discovers the biggest AI breakthrough in the history of medicine, and they cannot prove it in medical studies, we simply cannot use, as medical professionals, we simply cannot use that technology in practicing medicine. That's how simple it is. They have to provide peer-reviewed studies and clinical trials to be able to use those technologies in practice. And the second is we can build trust by involving medical professionals and clinicians in the process of creating those AI-based algorithms. Companies, we talked about it in the very first minutes of this live Q&A. Companies can reach out, should reach out to clinicians to involve them in those discussions. I think it's critically important. Plus, building trust takes time. When I'm sure when I might first have a driverless car, I'm pretty sure I will sit around watching that bloody car and the algorithm, how it makes decisions in situations I used to make decisions myself. I think for weeks or maybe months, I will keep on watching it until I gain enough trust that I can just look around and maybe read a book or work on my laptop while the car is driving me to a place. Imagine how much more time it might take to gain trust with a system that helps make medical diagnosis. So it's gonna be a long way ahead. Jorge, yeah, it's a great question, but based on my answers, don't the doctors need urgently to learn how to dive in the black boxes of the algorithms? That's not something I'm afraid the vast majority of medical professionals can learn. Not even, the top AI developers might be able to do that. So and just one more example, not related to AI. Physicians learn about how magnetic resonance imaging works. In biophysics, I learned about the MRI devices and how they work. I couldn't give you a presentation about how MRI devices work, but I have enough trust about the technology and the basics of the technology that I would easily send my patients into an MRI machine knowing that nothing bad will happen to them because we know the limitations, the potential side effects, and the stuff that might happen to them. I think the same will apply to artificial intelligence. We don't need to understand how it works on the language of developers. It's not even possible, I think. But we need to understand enough that we can gain enough trust that we can use it in practice. All right, a few more questions. Maybe you have 20 more minutes. It's going very well. I hope you're having a great time despite the COVID circumstances. Okay, I had these, the danger of AI, master programs. We will discuss it in a other live event. Where are we currently in the Gartner hype cycle for AI? Okay, let me share Gartner hype cycle for those who don't know about it. But I guess everyone knows about it. So here it is. Well, I guess we are somewhere here. That's just my opinion. We haven't even seen enough hype. I'm fed up with reports and news about how AI can outperform physicians. It's never the case. But we will see worse than that. We will see that AI is capable of everything. AI can write down discussions physicians are having with patients and make those discussions through voice to text into medical records. AI can find new drug combinations and medications. AI can outperform traditional clinical trials. I think we are nowhere near the hype that we might anticipate in the next years or so. I'm not saying I'm happy about it, but we are far away from the big hype here. All right. There are still questions about AI, whether AI can redesign medical career. We will talk about these in another live event. All right, let me look at the live questions here. I have a minute at least, so I can share with you a few things that we had in mind. So we published the newest update of the artificial intelligence in AI in healthcare guide that we published 1.5 years ago. This is far our most popular ebook or executive summary. Thousands of readers have downloaded it, and we had to update it. This field changes so fast that we sat down for weeks in January and February, and we came to the conclusion that an update is needed, and that's what you can see here, a guide to AI in healthcare. And what we did now is we published an article on medicalfuturist.com about the major insights, even we learned as we updated the ebook, like how besides all the machine learning subtypes, federated learning seems to be like an exciting new solution that could allow hospitals and healthcare institutions to keep the patient data safe in their systems, but still share it in a way that AI could analyze it with large other data sets coming from different hospitals. We learned that cloud computing could be a solution for the health IT upgrades we don't see happening too often. You know, NVIDIA announced a few weeks ago that it's possible now to have a slow PC at home and still play a very high performing video game by buying video processing power through the internet, through the cloud. To me, it's a science fiction like concept. That is like the GPU is somewhere far away from me, but I can use it like my own, like being built into my PC. I think it's easier for primary care practices to improve their health IT through such cloud computing services than to upgrade their health IT hardware on site that might allow them to use AI as well. We learned that regulation is lagging behind. We published a study in NPJ Digital Medicine a few months ago about the state of AI-based FDA-approved medical technologies. And we came up with this infographic that I'm very proud of, where we show by timeline when a new AI-based FDA approval came out, what's the purpose of that medical technology, and which medical specialty the algorithm belongs to. And this way you can get quite a clear picture that radiology is far the most popular specialty among AI-based medical technologies, but also cardiology and oncology come in the second and third places. But these are the major specialties involved in developing AI. So regulation is lagging behind. There are great steps forward. The FDA published not a guide yet, but a sort of feedback on the suggestions they asked for last year. And there was an announcement a few weeks ago from FDA saying that this year they will come out with a very clear guidance about logged and adaptive algorithms used for medical technologies. We also came to a conclusion that AI can discover unusual medical associations, associations between certain laboratory test results and symptoms that no physician have been able to connect together, but AI might be able to analyze millions of lab test results and data sets and millions of studies and millions of symptoms and millions of medical records, and might connect dots between points which we thought would be totally unrelated. Like how phone conversations could be used and the recordings of those phone conversations to analyze the recordings for signs of Alzheimer's disease way before the first symptoms would appear. This is mind-blowing. We came to the conclusion that without practical applications, physicians will not get on board. So we included a few examples where with practical applications, companies have been able to persuade physicians and clinicians to be on the same page with them. My favorite example in that is reducing alarm fatigue. There are a lot of alarm fatigue issues for clinicians at the hospital because there are hundreds of alarm and warning sounds and signals they hear all day, and over 99% of those are just unnecessarily loud. And with AI, they could reduce it to just a few. Like we wrote an article about how AI can reduce such notifications by 99.3%. This is pretty much a good convincing thing for clinicians to get on board with AI. We talked about how medical professionals should be able to differentiate between algorithms and AI. There's a huge difference between something that was written like a program to do something and it does what it was written to do, and an AI that can learn from data and make smarter decisions with every data set, every decision it makes. And my favorite part is that we think that the same fate awaits healthcare that has happened to chess. You know, in the 1990s, Garry Kasparov was beaten by the supercomputer from IBM, Deep Blue. And there was a rumor that that would be the end of chess. No, who would like to play chess ever again when the best player is an algorithm? But what's reality today is that 600 million people play chess every day. I do that too. I hope you do that too. Actually, challenge me if you want to have a chess match on lichess.com or chess.com. If you watch Twitch, you see Hikaru Nakamura having tens of thousands of viewers whenever he streams. But chess is better today because every chess player is better because they use AI. Every chess coach uses AI to get better at chess and to better analyze games. Even us who are not professional players, we watch tournaments live and we need the evaluation from AI to better understand what's going on in the minds of grandmasters. So I think something similar awaits healthcare, that no physician will be able to work without using AI. No patient will be able to analyze their own data sets without using AI, and no healthcare provider, insurance company, government will be able to organize healthcare without using some form of AI. All right. Yes, and a few more things why we are at it. We also published, I mean, this is a topic that comes up so many times that AI will replace physicians. And I don't like to have fights with people on the internet. That's why I have 600,000 followers. So, of course, I have fights, but I don't like those fights. When I see investors claiming things like radiology would be obsolete in 5 years, and actually, the investor I'm talking about said this like 3 years ago. So radiology should be obsolete almost by now. Of course, it's far away from that. So I don't like hype. I don't like such false claims coming from people who have a loud voice online. That's why we wrote this article about 5 reasons why AI will not replace physicians. Empathy cannot get replaced. Practicing medicine is not a linear kind of method or process. Complex technologies require professionals who can work with them. So feel free to check out this. And in the event registration, we also mentioned 2 lists. One list is about 7 things you can expect from AI in healthcare. And I loved putting together this list. It made me so hopeful about the future. And we also have a list about 7 things you can't expect from AI in healthcare, things that simply won't happen anywhere anytime soon. So feel free to check these out too. And I'm checking out if I answered every question. It seems so. About career choices, again, we will have a different event for that. Yeah, so the plan is that we will meet every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central European time or noon Eastern Standard Time here. The plan is that next Tuesday we will talk about a technological update on the fight against COVID-19. I know you are fed up with COVID as much as I am. I cannot wait to get the vaccine. I cannot wait to get vaccinated and leave this whole thing behind. It will still take a lot of months and maybe the whole year. But there are digital health technologies and artificial intelligence-based algorithms that are supporting the fight against this bloody disease. And we will discuss these example by example, step by step next Tuesday. And the Tuesday after that, we plan to discuss or address the topic of future design in hospitals. And I will try to divide this into 2 topics. One, future design concepts within the realms of hospitals, and future design concepts outside hospitals. So in the point of care and outside of it. We'll also have 2 articles coming out next week about these, and I plan to give you plenty of updates about what kind of exciting design concepts or ideas we can expect to see in the near future in healthcare. In the meantime, we will publish a video on our YouTube channel about how to give an outstanding virtual presentation. I'm sure I've been doing that. I'm sure like you have in the last couple of months. I've been talking into the lens of a camera and I'm quite fed up with that. But we have to find the beauty in doing that because this hybrid model will stay with us forever. I'm pretty sure that for big events, we will go back for in-person meetings, but for smaller events or internal events, we will not fly away around the world. We will just have these virtual sessions. So we must learn new tricks of how to do that properly. And this video will come out, I think, in two days on our YouTube channel. We publish news and articles twice a week on medicalfuturist.com. Please feel free to check those out. We publish analysis many times a day on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, yes, on the Medical Futurist channels. And we have a Patreon channel if you want to support what we do so we can keep on producing free content across all these channels. And you also want to get some insights that we don't share with anybody else, only with the patrons, then you are more than welcome to support the job of the Medical Futurist team on patreon.com/the Medical Futurist. And you can also support what we do by actually buying this new executive summary, a guide to artificial intelligence in healthcare. You can even set yourself how much you want to pay for that. Everything helps us so we can keep the team and we can keep on producing free content across a range of channels and technologies. We really enjoy doing that for you. And in that, you'll find a lot of things, really a lot of details about machine learning for medical and healthcare purposes, what the future brings, top challenges, top ideas, major companies interested in AI in healthcare. So I hope that you will enjoy reading this executive summary. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you being here for all these live sessions. This recording will be available in a few minutes after we finish here on our YouTube channel. We plan to have many more. I hope you enjoyed being here with me. I very much enjoyed being here with you, and I really hope to see you next week too. Thank you to the Medical Futurist team for making this live session to take place. And then again, thank you and see you next week. Bye.